Welcome back, everybody, to the Sit Around the Fire podcast, where we share stories of healing, transformation, and hope, especially for first responders and the people who love them. Today, I am so excited to talk to you about a really big question that comes up a lot, and maybe you've asked it yourself. Do I need therapy? Now, underneath that question, there's usually another layer. Sometimes it sounds like my problems aren't big enough, or other people have it worse, or even I just need to tough it out. And before we know it, we're putting ourselves on this invisible scale of suffering. Like we have to wait until things are bad enough before we're allowed to ask for help. But here's what I want us to sit with today. What if therapy isn't about waiting until you're broken? What if it's more like a maintenance program? Think about it. Just go with me on this. We take care of our cars for oil changes. We schedule dental cleanings. We try to eat better. We go to the gym. Why do we struggle to give our mental health the same kind of routine care? It doesn't make sense. So, in this episode, we are going to explore the why behind that question, the barriers that keep us from reaching out, and the wide variety of therapy options that exist beyond what we think of traditional talk therapy. We'll talk about how to find the right fit and what commitment matters when you do. Throughout this conversation, I'm going to invite you to reflect on some powerful questions for yourself, because this isn't just about therapy in the clinical sense. It's about how we take care of ourselves as whole human beings. So, let's get started. All right, so here we go. I'm really actually excited to sit down and have this conversation with you guys today, or talk through this. Episode's going to be fairly engaging, so you're going to get some good questions to reflect on and things to actually sit down and process within yourself. And I think this will help reframe and look at the question of, do I need therapy? This comes up a lot in conversations that I have, not only with clients that I see, but also just out and about, of hearing a lot of stigma and uncertainty and self-doubt around therapy, and how even sometimes when I bring up, or people ask me, what do I do for work? And I say, I do, counseling, and I get this really interesting response of like, suddenly people don't necessarily know like how to interact, or they have a bazillion questions. But when we talk about this idea of how do we gauge this, or how are we coming to a conclusion in our mind of if we need therapy, a lot of times, I've lived this 100% myself, is asking myself the question, like, are my problems big enough? Are there things going on in my life that justify me being able to go to therapy, or needing to go to therapy? Or using the line, other people have it worse than me, comparing situation to situation and saying, well, that person's life and what they're going through definitely warrants therapy, but I don't know that mine does. Or the classic line or take to it, a plan A harder, like we're really good at doing, is I should just tough it out. Just keep grinding, keep going the way things are going, and just get through it. And I want you to start with this question first, is being honest and real with yourself, and asking, like, have you ever downplayed your struggles by comparing them to someone else's? And exploring why you feel like you need to justify therapy for yourselves or others. And this justification, I've seen this come up in a couple of different scenarios or different ways. Again, when somebody goes through what we call a big T trauma response, an event in life or a call at work or something happens, it's So it's interesting and funny at the same time of how we feel like, oh yeah, like that definitely justifies therapy. They for sure need to go get that figured out. But in these other cases where maybe we're just experiencing low-grade anxiety all the time, or we have this fear around something that is going or potentially going to happen, or we have this really terrible relationship with money or spending money, or our own family and relationship dynamics are struggling, or I find myself getting really angry and irritable at things. For some reason in our minds, like we play this game where we feel like that's not justifiable enough, or that's not good enough to say we need to go to therapy, because it's not something that is just a big event that's happened. And I think this can really boil down to cultural and generational influences, because as the first responders, or even, I'll be totally honest, I've seen this even in the spouses of first responders, is we really get this hero mindset. We're the ones that need to have our shit together all the time. We're the ones that are actually going and helping these people who are having these challenges or experiences. We cannot be the ones that are having these issues within our life. And there's a big influence, if you want to call it that, or perception that's put out there that you need to be able to take care of yourself. This really strong mentality around being independent or handling things on your own. And I'm here to tell you 100%, I'm still working through that myself, and not feeling like I have to do it all on my own, or that like, how could I not figure this out on my own? Why is this not getting better? And really breaking the stigma and feeling safe enough to say, like, I'm actually not doing this right. I'm actually not effective in this area, or things are not working and I need more help. And I think if we can start to rework this from the cultural and the generational side of how impactful this is going to be for generations to come, and thinking about even within your work environment, if you're one of the people who is pro just going to therapy and getting help, or getting help in general, and you're vocal and bold about that, and those people see you doing it and like walking the talk, essentially how that's going to change when somebody does need to reach out for help and they feel like, oh yeah, he did it, I feel like I can do it too. There's a huge aspect of that, as well as talking about this side of mental health and the struggles, and what do you do when you are struggling within your family unit and within your relationship. Because if we can quote unquote normalize it, or make it more like just what we do is getting more help, then that's going to make such an incredible impact down the road for your kids, for their kids. Like, everything is going to be impacted by that. I think we really need to move out of using this so-called invisible scale that we've developed within our mind of waiting till things are bad enough or we're in crisis mode, and realizing that just like we take care of things like going to get our oil changed in our car, or going to get our med checks done or blood work done, is we need to realize that mental health is in the same category as that. It's kind of actually insane that we feel like we don't do that. We don't make the effort, or we don't put intention into treating it the same way. Like, it's actually very bizarre, because I know that many people can relate. If your mental health is in the toilet, like, your body, your physical health is not going to be well either. Or your relationships are definitely going to be impacted. Your capability and capacity at work is going to be impacted. So why would you ignore your mental health and just like choose to put that as a lower priority, it doesn't make any sense. It makes zero sense whatsoever. So I want you to think about, reflect on, when was the last time that you put off asking for help because you didn't think your problems were serious enough? And really, be truly honest with yourself. Maybe you're in that moment right now, actually. And the second question I want you to think about is, what would it look like if you treated your mental health like your physical health? If you went all in on your mental health, what would that look like? How would you decide to fuel your mind? What would you feed it with? How would you treat it? What would your routines and your rhythms of life look like if you treated your mental health like your physical health? And we know that first responders, we care a lot about our physical health. We have to have our physical health in place to be able to do the job. But again, your physical health is not separated from your mental health. So you cannot just be a bro at the gym, lifting a ton of weights and getting jacked. If you go home and you're sitting on your couch and you have overwhelming anxiety, or you're sitting in depression, there's a mismatch there that is not going to work. So you need to be real with yourself and decide, what are you going to do to actually take care of your mental health? I have this conversation with people a lot around therapy versus maintenance versus therapy as in crisis. And I want to reframe therapy here. And therapy, I don't know if we should try to pick a different word. I guess it works, but so many people have this idea around what therapy is that's not actually what therapy is. So we've all seen a bunch of movies. We all kind of have a joke around going to sit on someone's couch and telling them all of your issues. But that's not necessarily what therapy is. Therapy is really, it's so much more than that. It's so much more than that. It's, for one, you're learning how to use relationships and the power of healing. And the relationship that's built between the therapist and the client is providing that space for someone to be 100% real and authentic with where they are in life at that moment. It's that place where you feel psychologically safe to be able to talk about what's actually going on. If that feels I don't know if I'm going to make it another day, to I'm so angry, I don't know what to do with myself, or I'm so depressed I can't even get out of bed. Whatever it is, that's the place, the center where you have that amazing sacredness of that relationship within the therapy context. And I want everyone to hear this and to start thinking about this in this way, is reframing therapy now as proactive self-care. So if we are only in crisis mitigation mode, that works, and sometimes that's where we have to be depending on where it is. But the more, even comparing this to workouts or healthy eating or getting regular sleep, the more that you do that, you're setting yourself up for success on the other side. So if you're doing all those things, you're working out, you're eating a healthy, restoring diet, you're getting as best sleep as you possibly can, those shifts or those times or those moments in life that are causing stress, when those happen, you have a lot more capacity to deal with that kind of stuff. Your nervous system is in a better place. Your mental health is in a better place. Your relationships are in a better place. You have a lot more capacity to handle that kind of stuff when it comes up, because it is going to come up. That's just how this life thing works. But if you're not doing that kind of stuff, that stuff can really tank you. And so how therapy is related to this is therapy is going to help with all of these things. It's going to help with your resilience. It's going to help with emotional regulation, being able to have an open heart and actually feel what you're feeling. It's going to help with all of your relationships all around. If you're using therapy on a maintenance schedule, you're keeping your car tuned up at the best possible performance that's out there. If you're just in crisis mode of every time something breaks down, you're coming in, or you have a problem with this, you're coming in, we're only really able to look at that problem, that situation, versus if we're always doing maintenance, we kind of know, like we have an idea. So when something does blow up, we have so much more to work with there, and you have so much more capacity to deal with it. It's way better in the long run. There's really no better way to put it other than it's just a much better way of doing things. Now, here's your question for this. I want you to think about, if you saw therapy as maintenance instead of crisis response, how might that actually change your view of it? And taking it even a step further is if we as a culture, as a society, as a group, we had this mindset, this state, this way of being, that if we saw therapy as maintenance instead of just crisis response, like think of how different that would be. Like, oh yeah, it's just the thing to do is to go to therapy once a month or every 6 weeks or whatever it is for you. It's just part of your normal routine. It's normalized, it's encouraged, it's beneficial. If we believed all of those things, like, how do you think that would be different? I mean, do you think like people, their lives would be so different? Like, I truly think it would be something where we would see way less suicide. We would see way less divorce. We would see way less substance use. All of those things, if we could just use it in the case of maintenance instead of when things are really, really bad. With that, I'm always talking to people about how therapy might not necessarily be what they think it is or what they have experienced in the past. And I'll say, as I'm trying to do quick math in my head and thinking about it, I think that most of the people that I see in my office, let's see, maybe if we think of 75-25, rough estimate here, 25% of people have been to therapy before or had some kind of experience with therapy. Ironically, this is usually a lot of like early childhood therapy where parents had put them in therapy for whatever reason. And most of them didn't end up liking it, honestly. To 75% of people who have really never gone to therapy ever in their lives. So if I'm speaking to the people, let's say that the 25%, the people who have been to therapy, tried it before, and it wasn't beneficial, I want you to hear this, is that try it again. Like, try something different again. Because it's kind of insane to think about. I only tried this once. It didn't work for me. I'm never going back. It's like, what other kind of things in life do we adopt that principle with? When do you ever just try one thing? Like, we know the gym usually is a pretty good like metaphor for everybody to think about. So let's say you tried some new like workout program and you didn't like it for whatever reason. Made you too sore, you didn't see any results, or you just didn't like it. And so you just completely wrote off working out because you're like, well, I tried it, I didn't like it, it's not for me. That doesn't make any sense. It's like, try something else. Try a different workout program that just wasn't the right fit for you. So it's so important for you to find the right fit. And this means the right kind of therapist, the right kind of therapy. You have to be able to have that connection and that trust and that openness with somebody, or it's really kind of honestly a waste of both people's time. If you're not going to do that, then there's really not a lot of point of going to therapy in general. But if you can have a willingness to just walk in through the door or to just sit in front of your computer screen and show up, because it's that easy nowadays, then that's all that you need to be good at therapy, is just a willingness to show up. And now, if I'm speaking to the 75% of people who have never been to therapy before and never experienced what it is you don't know what you don't know, right? Who somebody way cooler than I said one day before, is you don't know what you don't know. And so you can't judge or put an experience on something that you've never experienced before. So if you're going to talk this big game around therapy, then you need to get in the game and actually try it and have some clout behind you of what this actually is. And you can do this by so many different ways. There is nothing wrong with searching and shopping around, for lack of a better way to say it, for the right kind of therapy and therapists for you. Because therapy is 100% a partnership. You have to be a co-operator in your therapy experience. This is something that I really try to make sure I always say at the very first meeting with people is I am not going to work harder than you when it comes to your therapy. Is for one, I still have my own work to do. And two is like, no one here is going to fix your problems. You're going to be the one that actually has to do the work, and you're going to actually have to show up and have that willingness to do it yourself. I'm not going to work harder than you. And if you have a therapist that's working harder than you, then you need to literally double the amount that you're paying them, because that's just not how it's meant to be. This is a partnership. And talking about things like I just brought up cost, this is such a funny one to me sometimes of how this comes up. I hear people say like, that's too expensive, I can't afford it, or whatever, it's not in the budget or things like that. And I recognize that, and I can definitely resonate and validate that too. But at the same time, you need to make a list of what your values are, what's important to you, and what your life priorities actually are. So if buying that new thing or doing that activity or whatever it is more important to you than your mental health, then I would really encourage you to just be honest with yourself about that and say, like, actually buying this is more important than taking care of my anger, or going on this trip is actually more important than taking care of my depression, or whatever it is. But just be honest with yourself. There's zero judgment coming with that. It's honestly just be honest and real with yourself that it's not a priority. Because if it was, and you broke down the cost of what it actually is, it's really not that expensive. It's incredibly affordable. And there are so many different ways to get access to care as well too. If money is an issue and resources are an issue, there's a lot of different ways to help support you. But again, you got to freaking show up. You just have to have that willingness to be able to do it and to realize, like, it is an investment, and it's an investment in yourself. And part of that investment is going to take time. You're going to have to put it into your routine and into your schedule, just like you do for meal prepping or going to work out or spending time with your family or doing things that you enjoy to do. Whatever it is, like, you have to make it a priority. And the only way you'll know if it's a priority is if it makes it on your calendar. Actually, they say, like, if it's in your checkbook and if it's in your calendar, you'll know if it's a priority. And that goes with anything, not just therapy. But you have to be willing to set aside the time for yourself. I've heard this come up a lot of times, and to be totally frank and honest, it actually drives me pretty freaking bananas, is when people will say, I just can't justify taking the time away from my family. And ironically, I hear this a lot from spouses, is they feel guilty for taking the time away for themselves to go take care of them, to make themselves a priority so that they can show up with a greater capacity in their family and live their most abundant lives. Like, they feel guilty for that. They feel like they can't take time away. And that is just so not okay. Like, it is not okay to do that. That if you have a fear around taking the time for yourself, you really need to get curious about why that's a thing and why that is there, or why you're struggling to take, we'll say an hour and a half or 2 hours maybe with drive time or whatever, out of a month or every 3 weeks or whatever to take care of you, like, you really need to get an idea of where your values and your priorities are. And this judgment, it comes from other people, as this comes up with a fear around seeking help or tapping into therapy, is what are other people going to think? And I've seen this come up even, again, with spouses too, of, saying things like, is it really this bad that they need to be here right now? Or is this really something they need to do? And this questioning that we're doing to each other, you guys, it's killing us, of, again, having to justify, like, I am suffering. Like, I'm not living my best life. I'm suffering, and now I have to justify why I no longer want to suffer. I know that that's probably not where people are coming from, but it really, really feels like that. And I think taking away this judgment or this concept or idea that you have to justify or be worried about what are other people going to think or what's my spouse going to think, like, it just can't be a thing. It cannot be a thing. This has to be too important and too much of a priority for you in your life that it's really just a non-negotiable. So the question I have, 2 questions here for you, is 1, what qualities would you want in a therapist or a healing guide? Think about what you want from somebody. What's the type of relationship that you want? So there's a lot of different kinds of therapists out there with a lot of different personalities. I guarantee you're going to find someone to click with. Something will work. And 2, what's holding you back from exploring therapy right now? What is the thing? And be really, really, really clear and concise with yourself about what is that? And is that aligning with where I want my life to be? Is that aligning with what my goals are, with my values and my priorities? Is that really fitting in, or is this holding me back because I'm not willing to go get some extra help or have somebody help me through this? There are so many different paths of therapy. There are so many different kinds of modalities and options and way to go. It is actually pretty freaking awesome. And so many beyond just basic talk therapy. If you love talk therapy, that's amazing. Like, do it, keep doing it. It's so healing and impactful just to have a place to talk open and freely and process things, that we cannot undermine the value of just talk therapy. So that is an amazing outlet to have. But there are so many other things like brain spotting, neurofeedback, EMDR. There's all kinds of new modalities coming up, like equine therapy or different animal-centered therapy that's helping as well. One of my big passions is hypnosis. I love working with hypnosis and using that with people. It is incredibly impactful and totally different kind of work than you have ever experienced before. There's so many different kinds of psychedelic assisted therapy and way to utilize natural medicines or other medicines to help facilitate and to work on things within your life. There's really cool different group therapies showing up here and there as well, of getting that idea of healing through community and being together as you go through this journey, which is really impactful. But I want you to feel normal, to be very curious and explorative of what these different options can be. And again, there's nothing wrong with thinking of this like a big buffet that you go to, and you may want to try a little bit of, burritos, and then you may want to try some hot wings, and then you may want to try some Jello. I don't know what you want at the buffet, but the story is just try and explore different things. Because if you think about therapy or all these modalities, we're working on a problem. And if you had a problem on your car and you said, I'm only going to use a wrench to work on this problem, you would be kind of nuts. That wouldn't make that wouldn't really get you where you're hoping to go, right? You can't only use one tool on a problem. You have to oftentimes use a bunch of different things to focus on and to transform and do what you need to do that you actually want, that's going to help you move forward. That's exactly the same metaphor going into therapy, is it takes different tools, sometimes multiple tools at the same time. Sometimes it's one at a time. You got to figure out like what's going to work for you and like how to implement that into your commitment, right? Is like you have to find something, be committed to the process for one. Like say, I'm going to go on this journey. My intention is to do this. I'm going to go all in. I'm going to try and do whatever I need to. Because on the other side, the suffering is terrible. Like you're sick of your suffering. You want to do something different. You're feeling stuck in life. You know you're living life with the mute button on. Things are not feeling great for you. If you decide I'm all in, I'm committed, then that's all that you need. That's the most important thing that you need. And you have to commit to more than one session and trying more than one thing. If you meet this therapist out there that's the unicorn, then let me know. But if there's a therapist out there that fixes everything for you, every single thing going on in your life, every issue you would ever want to work on or struggle or growth point or whatever, you let me know. But usually it takes more than one session. You need to be committed to be in the process. And just like you can never just go to the gym and do one workout and suddenly have a 6-pack and 3% body fat. That's not how it works. So thinking of it in the same context, you're going to have to be committed to the process. So I want you to ask yourself the question, what kind of therapy or healing approach sparks your curiosity, even if it's outside the box? And another good way to explore this is to start talking about it with people that you're around, because most likely some people have tried something and they just haven't had the opportunity to talk about it, or they've been waiting to talk about it, or you notice a change in them, something's a little bit different. Asking them what they're doing, like what are the things that you've tried that's worked for you, and be willing to go out there and just try it. Just see how it is. That's all I'm asking for. Open mind, open heart, go check it out. If it's not for you, that modality, then try something else. Totally good. Now, I really want to drill in this point a lot, is that, and this is so huge, just hear me out on this. Therapy is not about being broken. It's about being proactive. And I think if we could get into this mindset of realizing we don't need to hit rock bottom before reaching out, is that can really just be so much better for you in the long run, of where, again, you have some of this capacity and this resiliency and all of the support already networked in for you, that when rock bottom comes or you find yourself slipping down that slope, like you've got somebody there to reach out to, or you have some of the tools in your own backpack to be able to stop you from sliding down even further. Your mental health deserves the same attention as your physical health. And like I said before, I know we are all really good and really passionate about taking care of our physical health, but it really just is a non-negotiable when it comes to mental health and how powerful this really is. If you have some more question around this, I would look at a lot of Dr. Joe Dispenza's work around mindset and how your mindset literally impacts your physiology. And this is a whole nother topic we could easily talk about. But again, if your mental health is not in the place where it's helping to serve you and you're living in joy and bliss and experiencing life to its fullest capacity, you're really just selling yourself short. Like you're not going to be able to experience this life in your best, most impactful way. And so I don't want you to wait for your engine to blow before you get an oil change. Why wait until you break before you get support? Start being proactive. Take the challenge. Now's the time. Get out there and start being proactive about your mental health, because I can guarantee that you see some behaviors within your life, some thoughts, whatever it is that you aren't a super fan of, that there are things that are impacting your life and the way you make decisions and how you function in your relationships and how you show up on the job. There are things that are happening now that you're either discounting, you're ignoring, or you see, but you're not doing anything about. So I really want you to see what is the one small step you can take this week to invest in your mental health, whether it's therapy or something else. I want you to start getting curious, be exploring what's out there. What are the options? What could you just go and try, and be willing to go try it? Like, I guarantee you're going to find someone who will work out there for you. So do not give up. It is way too important. You are way too important to not feel worthy to receive the help that you need. So there's my soapbox. I'm going to go ahead and step down now. But I hope that you really do get something out of this conversation, and maybe it inspired you to just take that first step and move forward and say, like, okay, I'm going to do this. Like, I'm going to try. That's all I need to do is just try. And to find something that works for you, you don't have to stick with plan A harder. Try something else. I guarantee, like I said, there's something out there that will work for you. But I care about you so much. I care about your mental health, and I want the best for you. But you've got to be willing to show up and do the work yourself. If you found this conversation impactful, I would love for you to share it with others. Like, get it out there, spread the word. Let's start breaking down some of these old mentalities around what therapy is. And I also really appreciate you taking the time to listen and to be here with me today. And I'm so excited. We've got a lot of really cool episodes coming up with some really, really super fun interviews and special guests that are coming on. So make sure you like and subscribe on the podcast, and I will see you very soon.